Today we're going to use Tinkercad to make a mold for a cake pop, so let's get cracking. We're going to start at Google. I'm searching for an image and I want a clip art of a Christmas tree that is free. This one right here is pretty cool. I'm going to click on the little capture, and then from this I can right click and save the image. I'm going to just keep the silly name and put it in my downloads. Now we're going to bounce to picsvg.com. This is my favorite place to convert images, and we're going to simply upload that picture. I like to choose the one that says internal to because it gives me the best outline. I'm going to hit download SVG. I'm going to actually name this one Sea Tree and hit save. At this point, you can bounce to tinkercad.com. And we're going to simply hit create 3D design. I like to name projects first. I'm going to call this tree cake pop. And then we're going to simply import that part. Choose a file. There's my Christmas tree. I want the art. And then I'm only going to make this 65 millimeters high. Notice I picked the larger number. They scaled together. And I'm going to choose import. After a moment, we have got our awesome little Christmas tree. Now, I do have a tutorial that uses Inkscape for this, but friends, I'm going to show you how we can make this even cooler using the brand new Sketch tool. This is not essential, but I like it. I'm going to switch to outer line, and I'm going to set it to 2. What that does is it lets me find this line right here, because I'm now going to bring the Sketch tool out and I'm going to match it to that same spot. See how the dotted line matches? Once I've got that, now I can trace this shape using the Sketch tool. Now, if you've never seen Sketch before, real quickly, this is where you can learn the Sketch features. They update this all the time. It is fantastic. Make sure you check it out. Check out the animations, learn all the skills. When you're happy, of course, you can click the extra return. If you prefer my tutorials, you can find them using this bit.ly right here or the video's cards. All right, so we're going to draw with the Bezier curve, which you can get to by pressing number 2 or clicking that button. I'm going to click in the brown. I just want to be close to the shape. I'm going to click over here, and because I hit number 2, I can click, hold, and twist so that it follows that shape. This one goes a little bit straighter. I'm going to once again get close, and then I can move all the way out here, click, hold, and twist to get close to that shape. We can edit these later, which I do recommend. Right now I'm going to hit number 1 so I can get it going back on the right path, and then I can do the number 2 again, click, hold, and twist to get it close. 1 to get that angle started again. 2 to click, hold, and twist. And the more you do this, the faster you get. This one I can click, hold, and twist, get my angle, do my number 1 to get it aimed sort of the right way, hit that number 2 to click, hold, and twist. Once again, the more you practice this, the better you get. Now this one I want to have that star. So once again, switch to number 1, come back this way, and then click, hold, and twist. And I made a mistake. I forgot to hit number 2, so I'm going to fix it later. I'm going to keep this one straight, and then right here I'm going to hit number 2, click, hold, and twist. Make this one go a little bit straight. Click, hold, and twist. Click, hold, and twist. Hit the number 1 to go straight. 2 to click, hold, and twist. Bring it back. And just continue those steps all the way around until finally we get to the end and finish. I do want to remind you again, if you have any errors, we'll fix them in a bit. Now, I promise this does have good uses. I'll show you in a second. Right now, we're going to simply hit the outline, and I'm going to set it to the outside, and I'm going to tell it I want round corners. All right, so before I go too far, I'm going to go to this, and I want to do 1.2 for the thickness of the walls. That's how thick I'm going to print this. You could also use a number like 0.8. It's up to you for how wide this is going to be. Now, of course, we want to get in here and make this look a lot better. I'm going to double click, and I'm just going to adjust these. Remember, this was where I accidentally missed the button to even do curves. So I'm going to just hit 3 and make them broken so I can drag them where I want them to be for the next part. So I need that to look like a star. I'm going to bring it in close. You can determine how much detail you want on these. Once again, twist, adjust until you are happy. If any point is not the kind that you want, like this one right here is smooth, you can just hit number 3 to switch it. That didn't help me, so I'm going to just do undo. I'm going to make sure these come up the same amount. That way it looks a little bit more even on my star. Once again, you can be as perfect as you need to be. Number 3, shrink this one in, grab that point. And I'm going to call that good. When we hit finish sketch, I'm going to take the original one and I'm going to move it away. And then this is why this is so awesome. Control D, move the other one over here. Edit the sketch, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to shut off the stroke. Finish. Bingo, there's the part we're going to push through. Now the problem is it fits perfect. I'll show you by if we do Control D and we select those, choose L for a line, make either one of them boss, and choose center and center. It is a perfect fit. I'm going to set this to the 1 millimeter that I want for that back. And then we need to make this so it's thin enough to go inside. Here's how we do it. Control D. Edit either one of them. Click on it and change it to a stroke. And then change it to the center line stroke. Set the number to something like 1, 1.5, 2. I'm going to show you 2 just so you can see it really clearly. Notice a big chunk of it is outside the shape, but an entire millimeter is inside the shape. If I do finish sketch and I make the outside one a hole, I can now grab those 2, do Control G. It cleanly cuts our shape, and just to even make this more clear, let's do Control G to group these. I'm going to pick the color green. I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to make it the color red. And if we select them, do L for a line, you can now click and see that there is a gap all the way around. So we've got a large gap all the way around this. If you want to change the gap, we simply click back on that hole. You can tell I've got the hole, edit the sketch, and say instead of that 1 millimeter taken away, you only want half of that. So I'm going to type 1.5, which means there will be 0.75 on each side trimmed away. When we hit finish sketch, the pink shows that we're editing. You can see how it's going to trim once we click and finish, and there is your perfect gap all the way around. So we do have to take the moment to trace it, but it lets you get a perfect gap. All right, so with those 2 taken care of, let's get the hole and the push-pull put together. We're going to grab the cylinder hole, and I'm going to tell you to set it in a 20 by 20 grid. Notice that dotted line shows it's lined up in the middle. We are going to do Alt-Shift stretch, so that way it goes around the middle, and then once you let go, we're going to type the number 15 and press enter. This gives us a shape that we're going to use for our sketch revolve. Once again, I am lining up with a 20 by 20 grid. Notice they were both in the same line, and that lets us see this better. Now, sketch revolve is related to sketch. Of course, you can always check out the new parts of it here. You can hit the X to bounce back. Now, I want to push-pull that is going to be inside this 15 millimeter area. Notice this goes to 7.5. That's how large it is. I'm going to simply move out here, and then I'm going to hit number 3 for a smooth curve. If I move into, move up, say 5 or 6, you can pick. Check over here, it starts to build this awesome push-pull. Now, because I've got number 3, which is the smooth curve, it finds the perfect smoothness for your shape when you click and change the spots. Check this out. I'm going to click up here. I kind of like that bend, and then I'm just going to bend it like that. Check out that push-pull. So I'm going to switch to number 1, bring this as a straight line because I want this to be a solid part, and I'm going to finish it. Now you can double-click and say this one is not as smooth as you want. You can move it to a different location, adjust it. I'm going to change my grid to a smaller number. I'm going to go to 0.25, and you can get it to be the exact shape you want. Same as the other one. You can click on these and hit number 3 to make them broken. That way I can make this do this, shrink this down a little bit, move it to another spot, is I get the push-pull I want, and you can see that it's going to fit inside the hole because the hole is right there beside us. When you're happy, simply hit Finish Sketch, and bang! You've got a hole that you're going to cut out with, and you got a push-pull. And let's select it all and choose L for Align, and click on it and choose Center and Center. Now, when these come in, you do need to look at them and see if it's really where you want. I'm going to choose to move this down a little further. I'm just using the arrow keys to nudge it to where I think is a better middle of my project. I think that is going to be fine. Now I'm going to grab our push. Notice it's the taller one. And I'm going to grab the red part, and we're going to shift nudge to move it to the other side. This way I am sure they are both lined up. Now I'm going to take the red one, and I'm going to make it thinner. Let's say 1 or 1.5 for how thick we want that to be. And we have to mirror it. When we flip it this way, it's going to push through this the correct way once we 3D print it. I'm going to quickly ungroup these because groups of groups make Tinkercad slower. This is where you would pick the height of your walls. If you need it 35, you would push all the way up there. I'm going to choose 20 just so mine prints a little bit faster. And I'm going to select all of that piece and do Control G to group. Now I'm going to come to this part. I am going to double click this one more time to edit. Remember, this is where we check our sketch for how much gap we wanted. I had chose a number of 1.5. If you want that to be a little bit tighter, this is where you'd type a number like 1, and you'd end up with a 0.5 millimeter on each side. Of course, then when you click outside Finish Sketch and stop the editing, your part's ready. And now we can take these two parts as well and do Control G to group. All right, so with our parts built, let's do a quick test. Grab the two of them, do Control D, move them up above the other shapes. Take this one, and I want to tell you, you gotta rotate it. Once you rotate it, like you're gonna push the cake through, grab the two, choose L for Align, choose Center and Center. Now we're going to switch to Flat View, Top View, press F for Fit View. And when you click on just the blue one and hit T for Transparent, you can double check your fit. These are the gaps all the way around that are going to make it work. You can also go back to Perspective View, click on the green one, and do Control Up Arrow to see it push through. How cool is that? So once you've got it double checked and you're happy, which I am, I'm going to select those and hit delete. And we can move to the other parts, and let's get them ready for 3D printing. Simply select the two, choose export. I choose STL. I store everything in a 3D modeling folder. I'm going to call it Tree Cake Pop and save the changes. Now I'm going to bounce to Bambu Lab Studio. Let's create a brand new project. I'm going to add the Tree Cake Pop. I'm going to print it with the Army PLA Tough. Remember, I'm not actually making cake pops. If you've got a material you prefer that is safer for making food grade stuff, make sure you choose that. I'm going to choose 0.2 standard. You may want to choose the strength, once again, if you were really using these. I'm going to slice the plate, and in about 24 minutes, we will have a cake pop mold. And not too much later, we have got cake pop parts. And here we are, moment of truth. Got our little pull. We can easily push it in, flip it over. After you press your cake, bam, you can push it out. How cool is that? So a quick wrap up of the process. We took the time to trace that sketch because it makes it so cool for us to be able to add that inner and outer line and trim it so we get the perfect fit. This works for all sorts of projects, keychains, light boxes, anything where you want something with a fit. You can adjust it so slick by using that center line and subtracting the gap. Of course, I am not a cookie maker. If you are working with cookies, do check your filament. Make sure you got something that is food safe. I'm, of course, just doing this for fun. Of course, any tips you give me about it, please add them in the comments below. I'd love to learn more about the process. Finally, friends, I want to thank everybody that supports me via YouTube memberships. Don't forget there are 3 different levels of support starting as low as $5 a month. With any level of support, of course, you get early access to videos. Also, a massive shout out to my Patreon group. Love how it's growing. We have passed 300 members. There is a fantastic messaging area where you can ask questions, gain skills, share designs. Of course, you can learn more with the bit.ly up above or the link in the description. Finally, friends, I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget, every time you hit that like button, hype button, share a video, add a comment down below, or click subscribe, you're helping HLModTech get just a little bit bigger, which absolutely makes my day. Friends, have a glorious day and keep tinkering.